Have you ever wondered how one scandalous leak could destroy an entire empire overnight? Picture this: a stunning millionaire, revered as a philanthropic tycoon, and his radiant, pregnant wife, seemingly the perfect power couple. But beneath the glossy photographs and luxurious charity galas, dark secrets simmer. When an explosive video surfaces online revealing her husband's steamy affair, the pregnant wife doesn't crumble in silence. Instead, she steps into the blinding lights of a press conference, shocking the world and obliterating his career in a single heartbeat. Get ready for a tale of betrayal, resilience, and a downfall so swift it will leave you breathless. Emily Hayes first met Ethan Vance at a fundraiser for the Wilson Children's Hospital in Chicago. Ethan was the guest of honor, a self-made millionaire who had gained national fame after selling his tech startup to Google for a fortune rumored to be in the hundreds of millions. Emily, then a junior event planner, was charged with ensuring the evening ran smoothly. From a moment she locked eyes with him across the packed ballroom, her world shifted. He approached her with a gentle smile and an outstretched hand. Polite conversation soon blossomed into an exchange of dreams and life goals, a deeper connection forming with every shared laugh. The chemistry between them was electric. Ethan, charming yet with an air of reserve, was drawn to Emily's warm-hearted nature and pragmatic approach to life. Their whirlwind romance made headlines in society pages when Ethan whisked Emily away to a private island in the Caribbean. Photos of them strolling barefoot on a secluded beach, his arm protectively around her, landed in People magazine, and whispers of an engagement soon surfaced in tabloids. By the time he proposed under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights, surrounded by 1,000 red roses, Emily was head over heels, her heart completely his. The wedding was a grand affair at the historic Drake Hotel, an event that felt like a dream. The CEO of Morgan Stanley was among the distinguished guests, and a famous R&B singer, whom Ethan secretly flew in, provided a breathtaking performance. Their union was hailed as a modern fairy tale, the philanthropic tech millionaire and the compassionate event planner uniting their energies to make the world a better place. But in every fairy tale, there often lurks a moment of darkness, and for Emily and Ethan, it was just around the corner. A year after their lavish wedding, Emily discovered she was pregnant. The news filled the Vance mansion with an almost tangible excitement. Ethan appeared overjoyed. He'd often spoken of wanting a large family, and Emily was ecstatic to finally be starting that journey with him. They announced the pregnancy during a red carpet charity gala benefiting children with rare diseases. Emily wore a flowing emerald green gown that discreetly showed off a blossoming baby bump. When she and Ethan stepped onto the stage, hand in hand, the entire crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the tender moment. Ethan placed a hand on Emily's stomach, his eyes full of pride. Soon after, local outlets like the Chicago Tribune covered the Vance baby buzz, praising Ethan for his ongoing philanthropic endeavors. A short feature on NBC's Today show even hinted that the Vances might become America's new it couple. Emily was flattered, albeit slightly overwhelmed by the sudden, intense attention. Behind the scenes, however, something was decidedly off. Ethan had become more distant, engrossed in late-night phone calls and cryptic text messages. When Emily asked about them, concerned by the secrecy, he brushed her worries aside with practiced ease. "It's just business, sweetheart," he'd say, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. She tried to believe him. After all, she knew the burden of running a multi-million-dollar conglomerate was enormous. But as her belly grew, so did her suspicions. Faint clues, the lingering trace of unfamiliar perfume on his collar. A second phone he never let her see gnawed at her peace of mind. Still, Emily reassured herself that any man under immense pressure could behave evasively. She clung to the hope that once their baby arrived, Ethan would slow down and refocus on their family. Little did she know the cracks forming in their marriage were about to split wide open. With each passing week of her pregnancy, Emily noticed that Ethan's schedule became more erratic. Some nights, he would rush through dinner, offering half-hearted compliments about her cooking, and then dash off to emergency meetings. Other times, he claimed to be traveling for business expansions, leaving Emily alone in their expansive mansion. The echo of her own footsteps became a constant, hollow reminder of her isolation. What truly unsettled Emily was the subtle shift in Ethan's demeanor. He was no longer the attentive husband who'd once tracked down her favorite bakery an hour away just to bring her freshly baked croissants. Instead, he seemed perpetually preoccupied, scrolling his phone under the dinner table, offering only partial attention to Emily's excited updates about the baby's kicks. In an attempt to distract herself from mounting worries, Emily threw herself into philanthropic work. She organized a fundraiser for hurricane relief, collaborating with real-life crisis manager and PR expert Jessica Cole, a name well known in Chicago's elite circles for orchestrating big fundraising galas. Jessica, perceptive and kind, noticed Emily's tense smile and gently asked if everything was okay at home. Emily merely shrugged it off with a practiced grin, not wanting to voice her fears. Little did Emily know Jessica would soon become more than just a professional acquaintance. Her skill in handling scandals and public image crises would be invaluable when the Vance family's private pain exploded onto the public stage. For now, Emily remained clueless about the danger simmering beneath the surface. She believed the biggest concern she faced was coaxing Ethan to show up on time for doctor's appointments. But in the hush of her mind, a quiet fear took root. If Ethan was pushing her away, who or what was he pulling closer? Emily never considered herself a snoop. She valued privacy and believed that trust was the bedrock of any strong relationship. But as uncertainty haunted her nights, she found herself unable to resist the urge to peek into Ethan's world. One evening, when Ethan announced yet another urgent meeting and sped off in his car, Emily was left in the large, empty mansion, feeling the baby stir inside her. The sense of foreboding was unbearable. She walked into his home office, a spacious, modern study lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city skyline. Her eyes landed on his desktop computer, which glowed with a faint screensaver. With trembling hands, she jiggled the mouse. To her surprise, no password prompt appeared. The desktop opened immediately to an email account. A pang of guilt clutched her, but desperation drove her to click. Most messages were innocuous business correspondences, but a name caught her eye: Chloe Maxwell, a high-profile interior designer from New York. Emily recalled Ethan mentioning Chloe once, someone he was supposedly hiring for a new condo project. She clicked on the email thread and found an exchange of flirtatious notes, culminating in a few short video clips. Heart pounding, Emily hesitated before opening them. The first clip showed Ethan at a hotel bar with Chloe, leaning in intimately, his laughter echoing faintly. The second clip was longer security camera footage from the hotel corridor. It showed Ethan and Chloe entering a suite together late at night, arms wrapped around each other. A wave of nausea overwhelmed Emily, nearly overshadowing the usual pregnancy queasiness. Without a second thought, her fingers flying, she pressed forward and sent the emails and clips to herself. She had seen enough, and her world would never be the same again. Ethan returned well past midnight, reeking of expensive cologne. The moment he stepped inside, Emily's tears were already running down her cheeks. She waited for him in the living room, the lights dimmed to a cold, accusing glow. Her hands gripped her phone, the forwarded videos ready to play at any second. "Emily," he called, visibly startled by her tear-streaked face. "What's wrong?" She didn't bother with niceties. Heart pounding, she pressed play on her phone, letting the damning footage speak for itself. The room filled with the muffled sounds of Ethan's laughter in that hotel corridor, Chloe's figure clinging to his arm. Ethan's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his usually controlled features. He reached for the phone. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice tight with anger and fear. Emily yanked it away, raw hurt radiating in her gaze. "So if it's true," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper, "you've been cheating on me with her." At first, Ethan tried to deny it. Words like misunderstanding and business acquaintance tumbled from his mouth, hollow and unconvincing. But the evidence was incontrovertible. Finally, he sank onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair. "It was just once," he muttered, eyes downcast. "A mistake. You have to believe me." Emily's indignation flared. "A mistake? You've been emailing her for months, from what I can see. Don't lie to me, Ethan. Not now." He bowed his head, too ashamed or too trapped to continue. Furious tears streamed down Emily's face, and she felt the baby kick within her, a cruel reminder of the life she carried, the future she was trying to protect. In that instant, the fairy tale they'd built shattered into a million irreparable pieces, leaving Emily with only heartbreak and betrayal. Emily spent the night in the guest bedroom, barely sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, the images of Ethan with Chloe replayed like a cruel, relentless nightmare. By dawn, she felt hollowed out, a shell of her former self. Yet, beneath the grief, a potent anger she had never experienced before began to grow. Before Ethan left for work the next day, she confronted him in the kitchen. She was still in her pajamas, hair disheveled, a world away from the poised socialite she'd become known as in Chicago's charity circuit. "End it," Emily demanded, her voice quivering with barely suppressed anger. "Break it off with Chloe for good. Tell the press you're stepping down from the Maxwell Project, and you'll be going to marriage counseling with me." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. He seemed more fatigued, more worn than she had ever seen him. "I'll end it, Emily," he promised, exhaling sharply. "I don't want to lose our family." The words should have comforted her, but they didn't. The betrayal ran too deep, the wound too fresh. "I'm pregnant with your child, Ethan. Do you even understand what this stress is doing to me, to our baby?" His silence spoke louder than any defense he could muster. He offered a half-hearted nod before leaving, his shoulders slumped. Emily watched him go, unsure if she had just saved their marriage or merely delayed its inevitable collapse. Though she demanded a swift end to his infidelity, a haunting question nagged at her. Could trust ever be fully repaired once it was so profoundly broken? Little did she know the storm was only beginning, and a single promise from Ethan would do little to protect them from the catastrophe that awaited. Unable to bear the suffocating loneliness of the mansion, Emily sought solace with her closest friend, Sarah Chun. They met at a cozy neighborhood cafe, where Sarah arrived with open arms and a wave of concern evident in her eyes. In hushed tones, Emily recounted the entire saga, from the suspicious late nights to the damning hotel footage. Sarah listened intently, occasionally clutching Emily's hand, her coffee growing cold as the story unfolded. "I always had a bad feeling about Ethan's constant business trips," Sarah admitted, a note of regret in her voice. "I'm so sorry I never brought it up." Emily found some measure of comfort in Sarah's empathy. "I feel so stupid," she said, tears threatening to spill once more. "How could I not see it sooner?" Sarah gave Emily's hand a firm squeeze. "Don't blame yourself. Ethan's the one who made this choice, this betrayal. You're carrying his child. You deserve so much better." Over the next hour, Sarah offered unwavering support, suggesting therapy resources and even offering to help Emily prepare for any potential legal issues. "You have to protect yourself, Emily, especially with the baby on the way. I know a great lawyer, Laura Miller, who handled my cousin's messy divorce. Just in case." Though the mention of a lawyer made Emily's stomach churn, she recognized the importance of covering all her bases. As they parted ways, Sarah vowed to stand by her side through the ordeal, no matter how ugly it got. Walking back to her car, Emily felt slightly less isolated. But the protective bubble of friendship could only do so much. She would have to face the storm head-on, whether Ethan kept his promise or not. A few days later, the hush of early morning was shattered by Emily's phone buzzing relentlessly on the bedside table. She groggily picked it up to see dozens of messages and missed calls. Her heart pounded. Could something have happened to Ethan? But as she opened social media, dread coiled in her stomach. A gossip account with thousands of followers had posted a scandalous blind item about a tech mogul with a pregnant wife caught in an affair with a New York socialite. The post included grainy stills from the very hotel footage Emily had discovered, though faces were blurred. Her phone exploded with notifications. Friends, acquaintances, even random strangers wanting details. Overwhelmed, Emily felt the baby move, as though sensing the turmoil. She quickly turned off her phone, tears stinging her eyes. In a panic, she rushed downstairs to find Ethan. He was in his office, phone pressed to his ear, shouting into the receiver. She overheard him say, "I don't care what it costs. Just kill the story," before slamming the phone down. Their gazes locked. Emily's heart sank at the desperation etched across his features. "Someone leaked it?" she asked, her voice trembling. He nodded grimly. "Yes, but we can't be certain who. It might be someone from the hotel staff, or someone else." He shot her a look, a fleeting suspicion in his eyes, as if suspecting she had shared the video. Emily bristled, stepping back, her hurt deepening. "Do you really think I'd do that? You promised to end this, Ethan. Now look what's happening." Guilt flashed across his face, replaced almost instantly by a defensive posture. "We need to put out a statement, denying everything. My entire career could be on the line here." Emily swallowed hard. She wasn't ready for the media circus, but it was already knocking at their door. Their once private nightmare was about to go very, very public. Ethan scrambled to manage the crisis, summoning his high-profile PR team led by the formidable Rebecca Quinn, a specialist in damage control for celebrity and corporate scandals. Within hours, she arrived at the Vance mansion with a flurry of assistants, laptops, and a meticulously organized crisis management plan. "We're dealing with an unverified leak," Rebecca said briskly, her tone all business. "We have two primary strategies, deny or deflect. If we deny, you risk fueling the rumor mill. If we deflect, we might direct attention elsewhere, but it has to be believable." Ethan paced the room, raking a hand through his already disheveled hair. "What about claiming these images are doctored? That this is just an attempt to undermine my philanthropic work?" Rebecca's expression remained neutral, unreadable. "We can try that, but the pictures look too authentic. If more footage surfaces, we'll be caught lying, and that will be far worse." Emily observed the meeting from a corner, her mind swirling. She felt like a spectator at the unveiling of her own heartbreak, reduced to a mere prop in Ethan's PR strategy. As talk of hush money and NDAs swirled around the room, she felt the baby kick, a stark reminder that this crisis was not just about reputations, but the future of her family. Eventually, Ethan turned to her, his eyes pleading. "Emily, I need you to stand by my side. We have to present a united front." His words were a bitter pill. She recalled his promise to end the affair, a promise clearly broken. Yet here they were, strategizing about half-truths and misdirection. Emily thought of their unborn child, of the intense scrutiny they would soon face. With shaky resolve, she nodded. She hated the idea of lying to the public, but she also couldn't bear the thought of the scandal smashing their life to bits. She had no idea that the worst was still to come. Even as Ethan's PR team prepared an official statement labeling the footage misleading and maliciously edited, a new crisis brewed behind the scenes. Chloe Maxwell, the woman at the center of the scandal, refused to quietly fade away. Instead, she began making demands of her own. One evening, Ethan returned home from an emergency meeting with Chloe's lawyers, his face a mask of strain. Emily watched as he poured himself a stiff drink, his hand trembling slightly. "She's threatening to release a full statement," he muttered, avoiding her gaze. "Claims she's got text messages, voice memos, everything. She wants compensation, or she'll go public." Emily felt an icy dread settle in her stomach. If Chloe released more evidence, the shallow denials being fed to the media would crumble instantly. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked, her voice tight with a mixture of fear and anger. Ethan's silence was telling. He tossed back his drink before answering. "We're negotiating. She wants a huge sum, plus some endorsement deals for her design business. It's extortion, basically." The thought of Ethan paying off Chloe made Emily's skin crawl. "And you're seriously considering it?" He ran a hand over his face, looking utterly defeated. "If it means saving my reputation, yes." You don't understand what's at stake. Our philanthropic work. My investments. People rely on me. If I go down, a lot of people will be hurt. For a split second, Emily wondered if Chloe was truly the villain here. After all, she hadn't vowed to be faithful. Ethan had. The line between right and wrong blurred beneath the weight of scandal, greed, and betrayal. In that moment, Emily realized that Ethan's talk of saving his reputation might overshadow any concern for their marriage or the innocent child they were bringing into a world of lies. Waking up to relentless texts and calls from acquaintances, Emily found her anxiety hitting new heights. Even visits to her OB-GYN became fraught with tension, as she feared being recognized and judged. Everywhere she went, it felt like eyes were on her, analyzing the scandal. Social media was ablaze with speculation. A few brave tabloids even claimed to have exclusive new evidence pending release. The constant swirl of rumors left Emily hollow and exhausted. Did half of Chicago already assume Ethan was cheating? Did they pity her, or worse, mock her for staying? Alone in her bedroom, Emily scrolled through her phone, scanning social media. She came across a tweet from Anderson Cooper, a real-life figure known for calling out hypocrisy on his CNN segments, commenting generally about the moral failings of the wealthy and powerful. Although it didn't mention Ethan by name, the timing was suspiciously pointed. She felt a spike of anxiety. Emily found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. How many times had Ethan lied? Was he truly remorseful, or just scrambling to hide his tracks? And what if Chloe wasn't the only affair? The seeds of doubt took root, thriving in the soil of shattered trust. One thing became undeniable. If this story escalated further, Ethan's polished facade would collapse. The philanthropic golden boy would be exposed as a fraud, and Emily would be caught in the crossfire. For the sake of her baby, she had to find a way to protect herself, even if it meant going against the man she had once adored. Just as Rebecca Quinn and her crisis team finalized a carefully worded statement for Ethan to deliver, the bomb dropped. Late one evening, a popular YouTube channel called City Secrets Unmasked posted the unedited, high-definition version of the hotel footage. This time, the camera angle was clear as day. Ethan's face was unmistakable, laughing, leaning in, whispering to Chloe before disappearing into a room. Within minutes, the video was trending. National outlets picked it up, and Twitter erupted with the hashtag #VanScandal. Ethan's name soared to the top of search engines, overshadowing even major political news. Emily watched the chaos unfold from the living room television, the baby's weight pressing on her ribs as if in response to her stress. She felt an overwhelming desire to flee, to escape the relentless spotlight. But this was her life. There was nowhere to hide from the digital mob. Within hours, the Vance mansion was besieged by paparazzi. Some had the audacity to shout questions about her pregnancy, insinuating that the unborn child might not even be Ethan's. Emily gasped at the cruelty. The speculation stung like an open wound. Ethan was unreachable, holed up in his corporate office downtown, bombarded by phone calls from investors and lawyers. Alone, Emily cradled her belly, tears silently rolling down her face. The humiliation was staggering. She wondered, had Ethan realized, in his pursuit of forbidden thrills, that the collateral damage would be so immense? As the scandal spread beyond the local Chicago scene, Emily knew one thing for sure. There was no more denying or deflecting. The world had just gotten a front row seat to their marital nightmare. Desperate to hear Ethan's side of the story and furious at his vanishing act, Emily summoned her strength and drove to the headquarters of Vance Innovations, located in a sleek, glass-paneled tower in the heart of downtown Chicago. Security guards recognized her instantly and allowed her up, though they exchanged anxious glances. Inside Ethan's office, she found him in a tense meeting with his board of directors. They huddled around a massive mahogany table, glowering at him as if he were a pariah. The room fell silent when Emily walked in, her visibly pregnant figure a jarring reminder of the personal turmoil overshadowing their corporate meltdown. "Gentlemen," Ethan began, attempting composure, "This is my wife, Emily." She faced them, chin high, despite the dread curling in her stomach. "Could I speak to my husband alone?" she asked softly, though her eyes burned with determination. Most of the board members exited without protest, some casting disapproving looks at Ethan. Once they were gone, Emily unleashed the questions that had kept her awake at night. "You said you'd end things, but the world has proof that you didn't. How could you lie to me again?" Ethan rubbed his temples, his eyes bloodshot from stress. Chloe was supposed to keep it quiet. She swore she wouldn't let it get this far. "I tried to fix it, Emily. I really did." His words only stoked her fury. "All you did was attempt to bury the truth with money," she said, her voice trembling. "You've destroyed our marriage, our child's future, everything." They stared at each other across the empty boardroom. For the first time, Ethan's confident mask cracked, revealing a man trapped by his own misdeeds. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked, his voice hollow. Emily couldn't answer. She was no longer sure there was anything left he could do to make this right. In the ensuing days, the corporate fallout grew dire. Prominent investors in Vance Innovations withdrew support, worried about the scandal's impact on share prices. Philanthropic partners quietly severed ties, not wishing to be associated with an affair so brazenly exposed. Ethan spent most nights at the office, attempting to salvage deals. The mansion felt more like a tomb than a home. Paparazzi still lurked outside the gates, waiting for a glimpse of the troubled couple. Emily found herself pacing the halls, her mind whirling with uncertainty. A scheduled charity event for the Wilson Children's Hospital, a cause close to both Ethan and Emily, dropped Ethan from the speaker lineup. This move spoke volumes. If even the hospital Ethan once championed was distancing itself, he was rapidly running out of allies. Realizing that her own philanthropic work was now at risk of being overshadowed by scandal, Emily called Jessica Cole, the crisis manager she had worked with months ago. Over coffee in a secluded part of the city, Emily poured out her worries about the baby, the paparazzi, and the unrelenting media scrutiny. Jessica listened sympathetically. "You need to start thinking about your own image, Emily, not just Ethan's. Because right now, everyone sees you as the victim, but if this keeps spiraling, they might start seeing you as complicit or naive." Emily swallowed hard. She didn't want a war with Ethan, but it was becoming clear she needed to protect herself and her unborn child. She left that meeting with Jessica knowing she had to make some hard decisions, and soon. By now, the Vance scandal was headline news across major networks. CNN's Anderson Cooper, having previously hinted at the moral failings of the powerful, dedicated a segment specifically to Ethan's downfall, inviting legal and ethical experts to weigh in. The public response was brutal. Many saw Ethan as the epitome of hypocritical arrogance, preaching philanthropy while betraying his pregnant wife behind closed doors. At the mansion, Emily tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. She kept her prenatal appointments, attempted to rest, and even started decorating the nursery in a soft palette of yellows and grays. Yet every trip out was a gauntlet of flashing cameras and shouted questions. She began dreading the very thought of leaving home. One particular morning, the tension became unbearable. Ethan returned from another fruitless series of investor meetings, shoulders slumped. When he saw Emily packing a suitcase in the master bedroom, a flash of panic ignited in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I'm going to stay with Sarah for a while," she replied, zipping the suitcase shut. "I need space. This environment isn't healthy for me or the baby." Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Instead, he deflated like a punctured balloon, slumping against the doorway. "Emily, please," he finally managed. "I'm losing everything. I can't lose you two." She looked at him, sadness washing over her. "I wish you'd thought of that before, Chloe. I need time to figure out if there's anything left worth saving." His eyes brimmed with tears, but he said nothing more. Emily dragged her suitcase down the grand staircase, stepping out into the barrage of paparazzi alone, her heart heavy with betrayal and sorrow. It was during Emily's stay at Sarah's cozy brownstone that she received a phone call from a blocked number. Although she usually avoided unknown calls, something compelled her to answer. A soft voice introduced itself. "This is Chloe Maxwell. Please don't hang up." Shock rendered Emily momentarily mute, her pulse hammering in her ears. Why would Chloe call her directly? She contemplated ending the call, but couldn't resist her curiosity. "What do you want?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. Chloe sighed on the other end. "Believe it or not, I never intended for this mess to go public. Someone else got hold of the security footage. I can't say more without jeopardizing my safety, but I wanted you to know it wasn't me who leaked it." Emily's throat tightened. "That doesn't change what happened, or how you and Ethan." She paused, tears threatening. "You ruined my marriage, my life." A moment of silence passed. "I understand you hate me," Chloe said quietly, "but I'm calling because there's something else you should know. Ethan has been hiding more than just our affair. He's in deep trouble, legally and financially. I'm sure you've noticed the deals collapsing around him. It's not just because of the scandal. There's a federal probe into his finances. Tax evasion, money laundering. I'm not certain, but it's serious." A swirl of nausea hit Emily. The idea that Ethan's downfall was bigger than an affair blindsided her. "How do you know this?" she finally managed. Chloe hesitated. "Let's just say I overheard some conversations." "Be careful, Emily. If the feds get involved, they won't hesitate to come after anyone close to Ethan. Even you." Before Emily could respond, the line clicked off. She stared at her phone, heart racing with a new dread. Ethan's betrayal might pale in comparison to a looming legal catastrophe, and she was now unwittingly entangled in it. Chloe's warning weighed heavily on Emily's mind. She remembered Sarah's earlier recommendation to consult a lawyer. After days of sleepless nights, she mustered the courage to do just that. Through Sarah's referral, she met Laura Miller, a skilled divorce attorney known for her tenacity in high-profile cases. They met in Laura's sleek downtown office, shielded from prying paparazzi. Sitting across from the polished oak desk, Emily felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as she recounted Ethan's affair and Chloe's foreboding message about the feds. Laura took thorough notes, her brow furrowed. "This is bigger than just infidelity, Emily. If Ethan is facing a federal investigation for financial crimes, you need to protect your interests. If marital funds are implicated, the government could freeze assets." The words froze Emily's blood. "I don't know the first thing about these allegations. I'm pregnant. I just want my baby to be safe." Laura offered a sympathetic smile. "I understand. My advice is to quietly file for legal separation. That way, you create a clear line between your finances and Ethan's. If he's in legal jeopardy, it may protect you and your child from any fallout. And if things get worse, we can move forward with a full divorce." Though the idea of legally distancing herself from Ethan filled Emily with sadness, she knew it might be her only chance at safeguarding her child's future. With trembling hands, she signed an engagement letter, officially hiring Laura as her attorney. As she left the office, a flurry of mixed emotions assailed her. Grief for the marriage she once cherished, anger at Ethan's deceptions, and a glimmer of relief that she was finally taking control of her own fate. In the aftermath of the leaked video, Ethan's reputation took a nosedive. Investors fled in droves, stock prices for Vance Innovations tumbled, and philanthropic projects froze. The media was relentless. And yet, the public had not heard directly from Emily beyond a few brief sightings and no-comment statements. The tabloids, sniffing blood, began speculating wildly. Was Emily quietly arranging a divorce settlement? Had Ethan threatened her in his silence? Some articles even suggested that her pregnancy was a fabricated ruse to garner sympathy. When Jessica Cole, the crisis manager, called to check on Emily, she proposed a bold solution. "Emily, you need to tell your side of the story, in your own words. Let the world see you're not just a silent, suffering wife." Emily hesitated, standing in front of a microphone, addressing a horde of reporters while pregnant. No less, sounded terrifying. But Jessica's argument made sense. The rumor mill was devouring her in absentia, and with Ethan refusing to come clean about his affair or financial dealings, it might be time to cut ties publicly. "I'll do it," Emily finally said, surprising even herself with her resolve. But I'm not lying or covering for Ethan anymore. I'll tell the truth, just enough to protect myself and my baby. Jessica agreed, her voice brimming with encouragement. Leave the logistics to me. I'll arrange a controlled press conference, minimal chaos. But be ready. Once you open that door, there's no going back. Emily closed her eyes, feeling the baby move. She understood the gravity of her choice. This wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about reclaiming her identity and ensuring her child wouldn't be born into a vortex of secrets. In the days leading up to the press conference, Emily resided in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She prepared statements with Jessica Cole, conferred with Laura Miller, and braced herself for the inevitable media frenzy. All the while, she heard almost nothing from Ethan. Then, on the eve of her scheduled press appearance, she received a late-night phone call. It was Ethan, his voice shaking with desperation. "Emily, please don't do this. Don't go public. It'll ruin any chance I have left to fix things." She steadied herself, fighting back tears. "You've had every opportunity to fix this, Ethan. You chose not to. This press conference isn't about vengeance. It's about protecting myself and our baby." The silence on the other end was palpable. Finally, he spoke, his voice hollow. "I understand you're angry, but you have no idea the legal mess I'm in. A public spectacle will just invite more scrutiny. It could land me behind bars." A hollow laugh escaped Emily's lips. "That's not my fault. You did this to yourself." Ethan's next words chilled her. "If you ruin me, you ruin the future of this family. Think about that before you step in front of those cameras." She hung up, breathing heavily as if she'd just run a marathon. For a moment, doubt tugged at her. She still cared for the father of her child, even after all his betrayals. But the time for illusions was over. Emily swallowed the lump in her throat and reminded herself why she was doing this. To clear her name, to safeguard her baby's future. Ethan had made his bed. Tomorrow, the world would finally hear her side. Morning dawned on Chicago, gray clouds gathering in the sky, as if foretelling the tumultuous day ahead. Despite the swirling anxiety in her chest, Emily felt an unexpected sense of calm. She'd chosen a simple but elegant maternity dress in a soft ivory shade, the color symbolizing a fresh start in her mind. Jessica Cole and Laura Miller met her at the small conference venue, an airy, minimalist space rented for the occasion. They'd intentionally avoided the grandiosity of a hotel ballroom, hoping to keep the focus on Emily's message rather than ostentatious surroundings. Security guards milled about outside, ensuring the event remained somewhat contained. Inside, journalists from major outlets like CNN, the Chicago Tribune, and local TV stations fidgeted with microphones. Cameras were poised, ready to broadcast every second. The hush in the room was electric. Emily's heart drummed like thunder in her ears. She kept a hand on her belly, drawing strength from the life growing within. As Jessica guided her onto the small stage, Emily spotted a handful of supportive faces in the front row. Sarah, Laura, and even a hospital representative from Wilson Children's Hospital, who had come to show solidarity. Taking a steadying breath, Emily stepped behind the podium. Flashbulbs sparked, and a wave of murmurs filled the room. The tension was thick, like a coiled spring on the verge of releasing. It was time to speak her truth, not just about the affair, but about the flawed man behind the philanthropic facade and the toll his secrets had taken on her life. The calm before the storm was over. Emily Hayes was about to face the world head-on. The conference room fell silent as Emily approached the microphone. For a moment, she simply stood there, letting the bright camera lights and hushed anticipation wash over her. "Good morning," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm Emily Hayes. I'm here to address the rumors and speculation regarding my marriage to Ethan Vance." Eyes from every corner of the room locked onto her. Journalists leaned forward, pens poised. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion. Emily's heart pounded like a drum, but she pressed on. She spoke of her pregnancy, how she had longed to start a family in a loving, stable home. She confessed that Ethan's affair was both devastating and humiliating, that she had discovered undeniable proof of his betrayal. She explained that while she once considered standing by him, his continued deception and the possibility of deeper legal entanglements made it impossible for her to remain silent. At one point, a wave of emotion gripped her. Emily paused, tears threatening to cloud her vision. She glanced at Sarah, who offered a reassuring nod. Summoning her courage, Emily continued, "I'm not here for revenge," she clarified, her voice growing steadier. "I'm here to protect my child and to separate myself from the lies that have come to light. Any future decisions, including legal ones, will be made with the well-being of my baby in mind." When she finished, the room erupted in questions. Jessica stepped in, reminding reporters to keep their inquiries respectful and that Emily's attorney would handle anything pertaining to potential lawsuits. Emily exhaled, her body trembling with relief and nerves. She had done it. She'd laid bare her pain, her intentions, her truth. At that moment, she had no idea how drastically this single press conference would alter the course of Ethan's life and hers. Emily's press conference ricocheted through the media like a lightning strike. Clip segments ran on national news networks. The full recording went viral on YouTube. Social media platforms erupted with support, condemnation, and endless debate. Hashtags like Stand With Emily and Vance Collapse trended simultaneously. Public perception of Ethan flipped almost overnight. People who once admired him for his charitable work now saw him as a manipulative hypocrite. The sincerity in Emily's statement made it clear she was not seeking revenge, but merely staking her claim to dignity and security for her unborn child. A day after the press conference, CNN's Anderson Cooper weighed in again, praising Emily for her courage and condemning the toxic culture that allowed powerful men to evade accountability. The Chicago Tribune published an op-ed titled "The Strength of Emily Hayes," lauding her poise under pressure. Corporate repercussions were swift. A major investment round that Ethan had been courting fell apart. The few remaining partners in Vance Innovations distanced themselves, hastily removing Ethan's name from promotional materials and websites. Even philanthropic boards started voting him out to preserve their reputations. Emily watched the news unfold from Sarah's living room. It felt surreal to witness the magnitude of the fallout she had unleashed by simply speaking her truth. A twinge of guilt gnawed at Ethan's downfall was monumental, and part of her still cared about the father of her child. But she couldn't deny the satisfaction of finally freeing herself from complicity in his deception. Little did she realize the next blow in this unraveling saga would come not from tabloid headlines, but from a place with the power to permanently reshape Ethan's destiny, and by extension, her own. Just when the media firestorm seemed at its peak, another bombshell dropped. The U.S. Attorney's Office announced a federal investigation into Vance Innovations. News broke that Ethan Vance was being indicted on charges of tax evasion, wire fraud, and securities fraud. The timing, mere days after Emily's press conference, sent shockwaves through financial circles. Cameras swarmed outside the federal courthouse as Ethan was spotted arriving with his legal team, forced to enter a plea in front of a judge. The humiliating spectacle was broadcast live, capturing every grimace and tense exchange. The very networks that once celebrated Ethan's philanthropic feats now tracked his every misstep. Emily learned of the indictment through a news alert on her phone. Her stomach churned. She sat on Sarah's couch, phone in hand, and watched the live coverage. Ethan looked haggard, shadows under his eyes, the weight of impending consequences etched into his every movement. The charges carried severe penalties. If convicted, Ethan faced the possibility of a long prison sentence. This was beyond mere scandal. It was a life-altering reckoning. Yet, the indictments also served as a shield for Emily. With formal charges laid against Ethan, Laura Miller moved swiftly to bolster Emily's separation case, ensuring none of the allegedly laundered funds were connected to Emily or her unborn child. As the news cameras pivoted from sensational gossip to grave legal analysis, Emily felt a swirl of conflicting emotions. Relief that she was extricating herself from Ethan's web of lies, sorrow for the father of her child, and a haunting worry about what kind of future lay ahead for her baby one, with a father potentially behind bars. The day after Ethan's court appearance, Emily awoke to a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry." She stared at the message for several minutes, waves of sadness rolling through her. His apology was too little, too late, like a whisper in a roaring storm. But it was better than silence. Over the next week, Ethan's attempts to contact her became more frequent. Voicemails and texts appeared daily. Emily listened to some, tears gathering in her eyes as Ethan's usually confident voice cracked with desperation. He begged for forgiveness, confessed he had been reckless, and claimed to still love her. Yet, Emily couldn't forget the nights he'd lied to her face. She couldn't erase the memory of that leaked video or the swirl of scorn she'd endured from the public. And she certainly couldn't ignore the federal charges. Laura advised her not to respond, at least until the separation process and potential custody arrangements were established. But deep inside, Emily grappled with conflicting emotions. She remembered the Ethan who once left her handwritten love notes every morning, the Ethan who built a children's library wing at the local hospital. Could that man still exist? Or had he always been an illusion? In quiet moments, she would place a hand on her growing belly, her heart aching for the child who might never know a father outside prison walls. For all Ethan's sins, Emily couldn't deny that she wished he had chosen a different path, one that might have let them remain a family. Despite the turmoil, Emily discovered she wasn't alone. In the wake of her public statement, letters of support flooded in from women who had faced similar betrayals. Some messages came from single mothers who offered encouragement and practical tips on raising a child independently. The outpouring moved Emily to tears. It gave her a renewed sense of resolve. Philanthropic circles that had once rolled out the red carpet for Ethan now embraced Emily instead. Organizers at the Wilson Children's Hospital invited her to speak at an upcoming fundraiser, praising her authenticity and resilience. Representatives from various women's advocacy groups reached out, inviting her to collaborate on initiatives that assisted pregnant women in crisis. Emily felt a flicker of hope. Though her marriage was crumbling, she could funnel her pain into a new purpose, advocating for women caught in relationships eroded by power imbalances and betrayals. Sarah even suggested they start a foundation to provide legal and emotional support to pregnant women facing domestic or financial struggles. Yet, with each invitation came the inevitable question, what's next for Ethan's wife? The irony wasn't lost on Emily. She was no longer Ethan's wife in any practical sense, but the world still tied her identity to his. She resolved to carve out her own name and mission, separate from his tarnished legacy. In her quieter moments, though, when the well-wishers and supporters had gone home, she still faced the emptiness left by Ethan's absence. Even with the world rallying around her, some nights, she felt more alone than ever. A few weeks into Ethan's legal battles, Emily received a call from his attorney. He wanted to arrange a private meeting, no press, no cameras, just Ethan and Emily in a neutral location. The request startled her. A part of her had begun to imagine a future with no direct contact at all. Despite Laura's caution, Emily agreed, feeling the child shift in her womb, like a gentle reminder that Ethan was still the father. They chose a small law firm's conference room downtown, one with tinted windows that blocked any paparazzi from capturing the encounter. Ethan arrived first, dressed in a tailored suit. He looked paler, thinner, and burdened by a stress that had etched lines into his face. When Emily entered, they locked eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension was so thick she could barely breathe. Finally, he broke the silence. "I know I've lost your trust, and maybe I'll never regain it. But I wanted to see you, to ask about the baby." His voice was hushed, almost reverent. Emily swallowed, placing a protective hand on her belly. "The baby's fine, healthy," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'm due in a few months." Ethan exhaled a shaky breath, a mixture of relief and sorrow. "I made an unforgivable mistake, and now I'm paying for it in ways I never imagined. But if there's any chance at all, I want to be there when our child is born." A swirl of conflicting emotions welled in Emily. She wanted to protect herself, to keep him at arm's length. Yet, she couldn't deny the child's need to know its father, assuming he wasn't behind bars. "I can't promise anything right now," she replied cautiously. Ethan nodded, understanding that words wouldn't erase the hurt he'd caused. The meeting ended quietly, with more questions than answers. As Emily left, she wondered if there was any glimmer of reconciliation or if it was simply too late for that. Time moved forward, even if Emily fell stuck in emotional quicksand. Weeks turned into months, and her pregnancy edged into its final trimester. Her belly swelled, making everyday tasks more cumbersome, but also filling her with a fierce, protective love for the child growing inside. Ethan's legal battles took center stage in national media. Each court date brought fresh revelations of financial misconduct, fraudulent tax filings, shady shell companies, and possible insider trading. Courtroom sketches of Ethan flooded the news, capturing his anxious eyes and trembling posture. Still, he occasionally sent Emily messages updates on his case, lamentations about losing major assets, even an ultrasound-themed baby blanket he had purchased before the scandal blew up. Emily read and received these gestures with guarded compassion. She was no longer naive enough to believe they fixed anything, but she could see the desperation in his attempts. Meanwhile, Emily's philanthropic work blossomed. She collaborated with Jessica Cole to hold a charity drive for underprivileged pregnant women, collecting baby supplies, prenatal vitamins, and funds for maternal care. The event drew significant media coverage, with many praising Emily for turning personal tragedy into positive impact. Through it all, she grappled with her upcoming childbirth, uncertain whether Ethan would, or should, be there. The clock was ticking toward a new life entering the world, and she had yet to reconcile the role Ethan would play. As each day passed, the question burned brighter. Could a man so consumed by lies and greed ever become a loving father? Emily's labor came unexpectedly one evening, well before her due date. She had been at Sarah's brownstone, finalizing details for another charitable event, when a sharp pain sliced through her. Gasping, she doubled over, her heart pounding in sudden alarm. Sarah rushed her to the nearest hospital, the swirl of city lights casting an eerie glow against the anxious hush of the car ride. By the time they arrived, Emily's contractions had intensified, leaving her breathless and trembling. Nurses whisked her into a maternity suite, hooking her up to monitors. Panicked, Sarah contacted Laura Miller, who in turn thought to call Ethan's attorney. Within an hour, Ethan appeared at the hospital, looking frantic and disheveled. The medical staff recognized his face from the scandalous headlines, but remained professional. Emily, though startled to see him, was too overwhelmed by pain to protest. Time blurred in a dizzying swirl of contractions, medical jargon, and shouted encouragement. Emily was gripped by a primal blend of fear and determination, tears leaking from the corners of her eyes. Ethan hovered by her side, tentatively offering a hand. In her pain, she grasped it instinctively. Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, Emily heard the baby's first cry. Relief and awe collided in her chest. The nurse carefully placed a tiny, wriggling infant in Emily's arms. She sobbed, pressing kisses to the baby's delicate forehead. "A beautiful baby girl," the nurse announced, smiling. Through tear-blurred vision, she saw Ethan standing nearby, eyes shining with raw emotion. In that instant, their entire, scandalous past receded, eclipsed by the fragile miracle of new life. They named her Amelia. Back at the hospital, Emily watched as Ethan gently rocked Amelia, his face softened with an awe she hadn't seen in years. Emily remained guarded, the wound still tender. "I know," Ethan replied, his eyes fixed on their daughter. "But I want to earn your trust back for her. I will spend every day trying." Later, as discharge papers were signed, Ethan asked, his voice hesitant, Can I come home with you both?" Emily paused, considering his earnest plea, the genuine remorse in his eyes. Then, she slowly shook her head. "Not yet, Ethan. Amelia and I need some time, some peace. But you can visit. We can figure out a schedule. He nodded, visibly crushed by her refusal for him to come home, yet respectful of her decision. A small spark of hope lit his eyes at the offer of visits. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for letting me be here, for letting me see her." In the weeks after Amelia's birth, Emily embraced motherhood in quiet refuge, away from the relentless media glare. Ethan, awaiting trial, visited often. He was gentle with Amelia, his interactions filled with a tenderness that touched Emily's heart. He read to Amelia, sang off-key lullabies, and changed diapers with surprising competence. He was sincere in his efforts to be a good father, and slowly, cautiously, Emily began to let him in, a little at a time. Then came his sentencing. Found guilty of tax evasion and securities fraud, Ethan Vance received 5 years in federal prison. Outside the courthouse, after the verdict, tears slipped down his face as he turned to Emily, who held Amelia close. "I'll serve my time," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I deserve this. I hope when I get out, there's still a chance for Amelia and maybe, just maybe, for us to find a new way." Emily, looking at the father of her child, the man who had caused her so much pain, yet now looked so broken, replied softly, "We'll see, Ethan, one day at a time." As Ethan was led away, Emily stood beneath the vast Chicago sky, her daughter nestled securely in her arms. The fairy tale had indeed crumbled, shattered into a million pieces. But in its place, something more honest, more real was beginning to emerge. It wasn't a storybook romance, but it was a second chance, a chance for truth, for healing, and for a life finally free of secrets. She was ready to build that future, one careful, hopeful step at a time. Years passed. Ethan served his time, and upon his release, he was a changed man. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a quiet humility. He found simple work, far from the glitz of high finance, and dedicated himself to being the father Amelia deserved. Emily, now a respected advocate for women's and children's charities, had flourished. She had built a life filled with purpose and love for her daughter. They never rekindled their romance in the way of their early days, but they built something perhaps even more profound, a deep, respectful co-parenting partnership rooted in forgiveness and a shared love for Amelia. They attended Amelia's school plays together, celebrated her birthdays as a united front, and slowly, painstakingly, rebuilt a bridge of trust. Their Sunday afternoons often found them at the park, watching Amelia laugh as Ethan pushed her on the swings, Emily smiling from a nearby bench. It wasn't the empire they once envisioned, but it was a family, rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and hard-earned peace. Their fairy tale had ended, but a truer, more resilient story had just begun. Emily Hayes's life changed the moment the leaked footage of her husband's affair hit the internet. But it was the power of her own voice at that pivotal press conference that truly redefined her destiny. While Ethan's empire crumbled under the weight of his transgressions and legal battles, Emily emerged stronger, driven by her love for her newborn daughter and a determination to carve out a future rooted in truth. Ultimately, hers is a story of resilience, triumphing over betrayal, with motherhood guiding the path to self-discovery and profound healing. Emily transformed from a silent figure overshadowed by her husband's fortune into a public advocate, her work making a tangible difference in the lives of women and children facing emotional, financial, and marital turmoil. Though Ethan's journey led him through a prison cell and onto a path of quiet redemption, Emily found the courage to stand on her own, proving that even the darkest revelations can pave the way for newfound purpose and a beautiful, authentic life. If you found meaning or inspiration in Emily's journey, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support empowers us to uncover more stories that shine a light on the power of truth and resilience. Together, let's continue inspiring and uplifting one another, one extraordinary tale at a time.